ใช่ใช่
So
ยังไงต่อ
there are several problems, challenges that we have found, but we're not sure the process or technique to select any problems to tackle, just like you asked. So I think students take or pick the topics that synchronize with their interests rather than other aspects. So maybe you can share us. Break?
We should start the class below 12 or
12:30.
So today some break.
You need a break? 10-minute break? Yeah, okay. So when you come
Return, right? I noticed that some of you are not here, right? Did I scare them away?
No,
No? For what reason?
they sleep.
I'm suspecting that they could be some kind of alien. So they be afraid of me to to catch them, to send them back to their planet. Okay. At that time, I just said I come from Department of Business Administration, so I'm not really understand about industrial design. But I think that is this is a very nice opportunity for us to learn to each other. I will try to give you some ideas about social design. That is very much like that I suggest your professor to study community design and maybe community design lab or research center or anything like that. That there is some kind of very similar reason that I'm thinking about it. As I know, most of you are third grade or fourth grade. Third. Yeah. So may I ask, did you ever learn about design thinking? Did you ever
Yes.
study it? But you already. So I can skip this one directly to.
We can learn it again.
we can
Huh?
We can learn it again.
Okay. Okay.
Hi there. Have you noticed that the world is full of problems? There are big, hairy problems, like poverty and disease. Small annoyances like misplacing your keys. However, the geniuses at Stanford have come up with a process that will broaden your perspective and help you create better solutions, no matter the type of problem. This process is called design thinking, and it's here to change the way you tackle problems. Design thinking encourages people to explore alternatives, creating options that have not existed before. Design thinking is successful because it focuses on the needs of the user. It's more than just good ergonomics. It's about understanding the context and culture of the stakeholders involved. This understanding is found using direct observation and qualitative data, which produces stories that people can really empathize with. Once the research is conducted, the problem solver is more apt to define what the real problem is. After diagnosing the true problem, it's time to ideate or brainstorm new ideas without the constraints of existing solutions. Because design thinkers learn by doing, these radical ideas are then made into simple prototypes that test possible outcomes. Rapid prototyping speeds up the innovation process because we only learn about the quality of our ideas when we test them in the real world. The process of ideating, prototyping, and testing is repeated early on so that mistakes are quick and cheap and ultimately lead to success. So, why design thinking? The process requires method and defined language for multidisciplinary collaboration, leading to greater creativity and better solutions faster. Suddenly, the world's problems are simple and manageable with design thinking.
Do you agree that design thinking is helpful?
Yeah.
Really? Wait. Okay. This is a regular design thinking process, right? As your experience, did you design any product or service as you studied at class? Did you have any? Not yet.
Yes,
We already done.
What kind of design product? What kind?
Some is a service, some is a product.
Yeah, for product for whom?
Elderly.
Elderly.
Yes.
And any other? Huh?
or solving the cognitive problem, some kind of urban area in Bangkok.
Did you have any experience about design product or service for mass market?
That's not,
For example,
Not-
for profit organization, for any business, did you have that kind of experience?
I use this with my
Huh?
I use that with my own business, but it's not
Your
part of
own
the-
business, you have your own business?
Oh.
What kind of business you?
It's not what you expect, but it's kind of a hobby job. But I use the design process to testing the customer, to collecting the data, the insight of it's kind of the whole loop of that design process. And I think it's quite like correct with that theory, but you need to a little bit adapt it with the suitable. For me, it's not a mass production or something, just piece by piece. I spend quite a long time with that to.
But you
Yeah.
target
Yes.
to be mass design for mass.
For me,
market.
it's about the service, more in service.
More in service. So still at the you're more in service, right? So how did you implement it? That's that kind of service idea.
Sorry, I'm
ทดลองอย่างทดลองทำอย่าง
not. Yes, I already did that.
Can you share some experience with us?
Okay. At first, what I'm doing is okay. I will tell about my story
Okay.
about the paintings model job services.
What is that?
Painting model, painting the figures, the
New
miniatures.
figures, like a cartoon, miniature of the cartoon
Like-
characters. Paints it.
Yes, but I have seen that everyone that do this job, I see the problem and I see the opportunity that I can make my business more further than others by
What
see the problem of the customer that okay they can't like they can't design their stuff like it's about the artist making because the other do like the artist way, but for me I'm changing that into the design way. So the problem of the customer is they can't design their own toys. They cannot gain their time. Like it's quite late for the other shopkeeper. And I see that how it's happened that what is happening. And I found out that it's about timings or something else. So it's quite like a learning step by step.
Learning step.
I mean not. I mean that I didn't write the whole of this graph at first, but I'm just learning step by step, and then I collect that.
Okay, so we have some kind of experiment for design some product for elder people.
Yeah.
You have some kind of service design.
And you design services, and then you testing to see the feedback, and then you gain the feedback positive, negative, and then you improve the negative and positive.
Okay. The next I will show you a more detailed description of design thinking. So, wait a minute.
Design thinking.
So, I need to think about, is this kind of design thinking process really helpful for when you design your product or service? Which point is more important for you? Or is there still any difficulty that you can go through it? Okay.
It's a 5-step process to come up with meaningful ideas that solve real problems for a particular group of people. The process is taught in top design and business schools around the world. It has brought many businesses lots of happy customers and helped entrepreneurs from all around the world to solve problems with innovative new solutions. Step 1. Empathize. The purpose of step 1 is to conduct interviews that give you an idea about what people really care about. We need to empathize with their situation. For example, if you want to help old people, you might find that they want to keep the ability to walk around. In your conversations, they might share with you different ways they can do that. Later into the interview, you'll want to dig a little deeper, look for personal stories or situations where things became difficult. Ideally, you redo the process with many people with the same problem. Step 2. Define the problem. Looking at the interviews, you can now understand the actual needs that people are trying to fulfill with certain activities. One way to do that is to underline the verbs or activities that the people mention when talking about their problems, like going for a walk, meeting old friends for tea, or simply going grocery shopping around the corner store. You might realize it's not so much about going out, but more about staying in touch. After your analysis, formulate a problem statement. Some elderly are afraid to be lonely. They want to stay connected. Step 3. Ideate. Now focus only on the problem statement and come up with ideas that solve the problem. The point is not to get a perfect idea, but rather to come up with many ideas, like unique virtual reality experiences, senior-friendly hoverboards, or a modified pushcart. Whatever it is, sketch up your best ideas and show them to the people you are trying to help, so you can get their feedback. Step 4. Prototype. Now take a moment to reflect on what you have learned from your conversations about the different ideas. Ask yourself, how does your idea fit in the context of people's actual lives? Your solution could be a combination of a new idea and what is already being used. Then connect the dots, sketch up your final solution, and go build a real prototype that's just good enough to be tested. Step 5. Test. Now test your prototype with actual users. Don't defend your idea in case people don't like it. The point is to learn what works and what didn't, so any feedback is great. Then go back to ideation or prototyping and apply your learning. Repeat the process until you have a prototype that works and solves the real problem. Now you are ready to change the world or open shop. To experience design thinking firsthand, do the free virtual design thinking crash course from Stanford's D School right now. You will learn to design a new gift-giving experience. Find the link and a guide for facilitators in the description below. After you are done, share your experience and gift idea in the comments. To learn more about creative and critical thinking, check out our other Sprouts videos.
Okay, I think I just asked you to think about do that design thinking process really help for you to design your product, for example, design for elder, and you design. You're just talking about that other people, other design think that kind of service from artists, right? You just talking about it. So you think it from designer.
I didn't mean like that.
What is your name?
I mentioned the way I learn like this, but I kind of adapt in a way that, how can I say? Actually, my work is about the artist way, and the artist will think different from the design way. So when I use the design process in the artist way, is kind of mixing things together and create a new idea that different from what the other artists do. So what has made me outstanding to the others, because the other just think like the artist way there is not same as the design way. But I bring the design.
Can you make some example about that?
Okay. Right now I'm thinking about when the people who do the work, their posture is not correct. It's gonna be like this every time. In the designer way, and I do this kind of work. So I think that if we make the stuff that keep their posture right, I can design and testing with them because I already have a connection with them. So this is what I think, that if I can design the furniture or share that, make them drawing or painting in the good position and make them less back stress and make the work do the longer or make their concentration better. So
Did you come up with some real idea about doing that?
my idea is about the chair that's not the backrest like this, but it is a chair that support the stomach, because the posture is always like this. You know that? And I think that if you have something in front of you, you can be like laying on the bed and.
Have you ever seen some kind of chair you have to?
I see I see the existing to be, but I didn't test it yet. But in my opinion, it's about, because a lot of artists are elder, like 50 years old, and I think about the knees not fit with them. I guess.
Did you notice about that? There are some office.
Yeah.
They are starting to then their employee to work.
Yeah.
Just stand up. Yeah. They don't give them chair, so that can keep them nice posture. Did you ever notice that?
Yeah, I noticed that. But in terms of the offices use computer, and the posture is not like concentrating the small stuff, and it's just screen and like so standing office might fit them, but for my customer, it's not so fit because they need to like concentrate for a long time, for hours, 2, 4, 6 hours.
So it may seem like that design thinking process or design thinking ideas a little bit, at least a little bit helpful for design something, right? But I'm now trying to ask you to compare with the experience of Buowee job. Those kind of, then maybe maybe we can ask them first. Did you learn design thinking process before? Yes. So did you implement that design thinking process into Buowee job? Did you? Yeah. Is there any difficulty? Are there any difficulty when you implement design thinking process into community like Buowee? Did you find? I know I already asked you what difficulty that you have experienced, but now I want to focusing on compare to design thinking process. What you learned. Did you have any idea about it? When you implement design thinking process into Buowee job, Buowee project, compared to, did you remember that? The design thinking process. First, the exercise. Are there any difficulties to emphasize? Is it will be easier to emphasize for mass market, or is it easier to emphasize for underdeveloped community? What is your opinion? Did you ever use design thinking process to into that Buowee project? Did you?
I use maybe in the research methodology more than design thinking process.
Huh? What?
I only use like design way to research more than use design thinking process. Like I only like adapt the way of researching with the designer term more than design thinking process, because I think like it's more about like social development project. I consideration more about research and design after that.
Consider more about what?
Like this,
Huh?
the thinking process
Thinking process.
about like the research, the methodology.
What's the difference? What is the different difficulties between we design for mass market, or I mean you can think about it. Design for city person and design for community, lower developed community. What is the difference? What kind of difficulty will you meet? Can you imagine that you don't have experience about design for lower developed community? Did you have that kind of?
It's a community, but it's not developed.
What kind of community?
Called Baan. It's a Baan canals in the Ratchaburi campus. It's a community too, but it's not what you expect, like the low development.
What kind of motivation design for that community? And what kind of is that the experience that you design for that kind of community, and between you design for some kind of
Let's say the mass version and the community is quite different. The community is more about a lot of, they have a lot of stakeholders and have a lot of issues that different from the mass versions, because the community, for me, in my opinions, is I face on the government issues, some like sensitive social issues. It means that you need to be there, spend time with it. But the result is different from the mass version, because it means that you didn't want to make different. It's a different profit with the mass production.
Different profit, okay. But can you imagine that even you design product for mass production or mass marketing, finally that kind of products or service still have come into community, right? But how do you think? Why do you think about that is different? Can you imagine that? I think that we just watched the second film that is talking about empathize, right? It is all. I think it's standing at the point of view that help someone who design that kind of mass production service or mass production products to emphasize for users, right?
Okay, I'm thinking of one thing, the different, the employee. I mean that the most of community that we did, we was like encourage people in community to do something, to make work for them, to make their own work. That is make different from mass, because community is, it means that we try to make the community material to make it more like valuable. In my opinion, what we already did.
What do you mean valuable? Can sell to
Yes.
the other mass market?
I mean that it's not kind of so mass, but it's kind of a craftsmanship.
Craftsmanship, okay.
More like that. In Thailand, you can see that many communities are.
Did it success?
In terms of success, what I have done is kind of a bit 50 success, 50 fail. I know that it's a little bit fail because the how can I say it?
That kind of product or service cannot sustain.
Yeah, I think that
First time
we
when you
didn't
design-
design that point. We kind of like missed the point. So
What kind of one?
I mean the issue with the social issues or
The social is come and go, so you may say,
I mean that it need a lot of
support.
I mean yeah, support too and the potential
Potential.
to
What kind of potential you think about?
ไม่สามารถ motivate
Okay. Okay. I think this is a good exercise for you. You may start it to think about that.
see
Do you really believe that what you learn from design thinking process and that is helpful for you to design for develop community, or we can say that mass market? Did you really believe that you already learn or already benefit from learning design thinking process? And then you compare to if that kind of design thinking process, we do remember from the first film, right? They're talking about that the design thinking process is a general tool for solving problems, including poverty, right? But could you compare that are there any different difficulties between design for community, especially for underdeveloped community, between developed community or between mass market? Are there any different difficulties? You should try this kind of exercise frequently. Okay. I will give you some other ideas. This is I will explain that why I suggest your professors should start some kind of community design idea in your school. Now I want you to focus on these two stage. Focus on these two stage. First, when you go to that underdeveloped community, the first stage should be emphasized, right? But I like to you to differentiate that. Should it be sympathy or empathy? Do you know the difference? The difference between sympathy and empathy? What is your opinion? Huh? Can you tell us what is the difference between sympathy or empathy?
จริงมันดีในดีโดเนชั่นในสิบันดี
What is?
มันดีในสิบันดี
But you tell me the difference first.
Okay.
What is sympathy? What is empathy?
Sympathy is
inside out.
inside out.ไม่ใช่ outside in.
Outside in.
It's outside in.
Outside in. What is that mean? Outside in.
It's mean that you saw something, you feel.
More stuff.
Huh?
We see.
We
visit.
look the outside into the inside.
Then empathy.
We watching the football game as a coach, but empathy is we are football player.
You play yourself. What? Empathy. What is different?
Empathy, okay, sympathy, like you see the other children, you feel like, oh, something like this. You see poor dog, and you feel sad, sympathy. But you feed the poor dog, you clean the poor dog, is empathy.
Why?
I try to explain in the example.
You said you feed him his sympathy, but
No,
you
no.
clean him his empathy.
I mean that empathy is kind of do something like
Huh? Remember that the first stage of design thinking is emphasize, right? Emphasize. So when you trying to design a mass production product or service, what are you think about emphasize? And how can you feel more comfortable at when you design for mass market, but feel maybe more uncomfortable for design when you design for lower developed, underdeveloped community? What kind of difference? Maybe we just do something like dictionary. What is a sympathy? Is that sympathy is comes at earlier. This term maybe a bit similar. Sympathy is the older of the two terms. It entered English in the mid 15th.
15th century.
Okay, with a very broad meaning. Agreement or harmony in quality between things or people. Since then the term has come to be used in a more specific way. Nowadays, sympathy is largely used to convey consideration, pity, or feeling of sorrow for someone else who is experiencing misfortune, right? Okay. That kind of. This sense is often seen in category of greeting, heartache, or sympathy that specialize in messages of support and sorrow for others in a time of need. For example, you need, you feel bad for them. That is a little different, but you don't know what it is like to be in their shoes. You just feel sorry for them. Okay. Pity may, that's a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. Pity may represent little more than the impersonal concern with which prompts the mailing of a check. But true sympathy is personal concern, which demands the giving of one's soul. That kind of idea of sympathy, okay? Then we look at that. What is empathy? Empathy entered English a few centuries after sympathy in the late of 18th century with somewhat technical and now absolutely living from field of psychology. Unlike MC has come to be used in a more broad way than it was when it was first introduced. The term is now most often used to refer to the capacity or ability to imagine oneself in the situation of another. The most important thing is the ability to imagine oneself in the situation of another, experiencing the emotions, ideas, or opinions of that person. Okay? For example, Edward Norton said, I have always thought of acting as more of an exercise in MC, which is not to be confused with sympathy. You are trying to get inside a certain emotional reality or motivational reality and try to figure out what that's about so you can represent it. Okay? The most important thing is that ability to imagine oneself in the situation of another. I think there, if we try to exercise that emphasize process and design thinking, when we go to underdeveloped community, there are so many difficulties, but especially I think it is if your audience, such as when you design something for developed community or mass market, you may easier to assume that you can emphasize them, right? But you may be difficult, maybe become very difficult to emphasize for underdeveloped community. I ask you to think about that. What is that kind of difference come from? What is that kind of difference? So that is one of the I think might be that if because such as we just heard from your professors, your classmates talking about that in some situation that people, especially current people in the community, they don't have, they just don't have other alternatives can choose. They just don't have ability to know other things. For example, when you talk to them, some kind of idea, they just told you should go to master of the community, right? Okay, that's kind of situation. I believe that more come from the problem is that your audience is not conscious enough. So the next question is, how do you design for them? How do you design for them? If your audience is not conscious enough, how do you design for them?
But when you say not conscious enough, does it mean like they don't tell the truth, or they don't trust you, or
they may not understand their own real situation. Yeah. For example, he just talking about that people, when people doing anything, just they have have some kind of bad possible right. What does that come from? Why? For example, young children will writing at that one. They may not conscious about that, right?
Wait until they are conscious enough.
Oh, okay. Just as assumption. Okay, you can try to think about it. And now I will give you some ideas or some terms. Did you ever learn concurrent engineering? Concurrent. You never learned that. You never learned that concurrent engineering. This kind of idea, I think the student from GMI, did you ever learn that concurrent engineering? No? No? Okay. What? You don't know? Okay, you can find it. It's very easy to understand. That is just talking about from that is start of development process. From the initial development phase, you should interact with R&D or product design and product engineering and machine design and fabrication, different people when you design something. Just because they're talking about that, when you're talking about that art thinking, right? If you design anything just only the art thinking, then that will become difficult when the phase come to, for example, production engineering process. They may find that kind of this product design is very difficult to produce or very difficult to prepare that machine for manufacturing. Can you understand? Okay, very simple. Very simple. You may go back to it later. This one. Have you ever heard customer experience journey? Have you? What is this term talking about? Give me a simple idea about it.
Journey map. Similar.
Similar with what?
Journey map.
Huh?
We call it journey map.
Journey map, yeah. Yeah, journey map. Similar. What is it for?
To see the feeling and the feeling where and the mood when like to comparison between the both before using and after using our product or service.
Before what? After what? Do you know what is the?
We have kind of okay before we engage this and then we use that and then after we use that and we have.
I know the process of customer experience journey. I mean, what is the value or what is this kind of
To know
tools.
which part that we need to improve.
Huh?
To know which part that we need to improve.
If you connect with that design thinking process, you think this kind of tools will be helpful in which stage? Huh? Testing? Huh? Testing? It is not helpful for you to think about when you studying at the exercise process. Could be. Okay. I just mentioned you to think about it a little bit. Do you have ever learned about quality function development? Did you? No? It's also very simple. Here, we make some table help designer to design. For example, when product planning, we may develop the whole product features or design to match with what is the most important needs of customers. For example, like this table, and transfer it to another phase about component development. For example, if you know that IKEA, you said IKEA, right? When they design some kind of sofa, right? People like to people like the skin of the sofa is made by leather, right? Yeah, leather. Okay. But if we use leather as the skin of whole sofa, it will be very expensive, right? So we may develop that kind of quality function for the planning phase and component phase. Then we find out that people can only touch about the front way of the sofa. So we may just use leather in the front way, and that way we may substitute to another material. Okay, this kind of idea is that so we can develop into a different consideration: quality, processing planning, component development. Okay. Okay. I can give you another example. For example, in the early before, when designer designed a car, because the car, system of a car is very complicated. They include more than 1,000 of subsystems of a car. So they have to divide engineer or divide designer into different tasks to design the whole car, right? And come to that when come to a whole product, we find out there are so many different sizes of screw. Right? Can you understand? Different screw. So many different size of that. So that will make the production very inefficient if they have so many different kinds of parts, right? And they will go back to the quality function development. Then we will find is that really important for customer that we should have so many different size of that kind of screw pipe. So they can, if they find that is indifferent, so they can downsizing that kind of different parts, and they can get more efficient way to produce parts for car, right? Okay. This kind of tools helping you to understand how to design. Especially, you can find out that concurrent engineering and quality function development more focusing on that supply side, how to coordinate different process or different stage of the supply side, right? And a little bit about that consumer experience journey is to help you to coordinate with the user, with designer, right? Okay, you can understand that. So that return to that example, 20 monkeys. Before we just talking about that because of 40,000 monkeys. Now monkeys can evolve to human, right? Okay. Because of 40,000 people or monkeys, okay, cooperate, so that create the opportunity for 20 person or 20 monkey have to have the opportunity to create, repeat, and repeat give them the opportunity to innovate or invent some kind of special tool, special equipment to increasing their productivity, right? Okay, so actually, if you can understand the kind of idea, it may be easier for you to think about that. Actually, any civilization is come from that kind of cooperation. Okay, I will give you some kind of idea to think about that. When we using design thinking process in the case when we design product or service for mass market or for developed community, we feel more comfortable. We feel more confidence. It's just because of that mass market or developed community already cooperate with some kind of order. But there are still some kind of they are still because of some kind of already developed tools that we that can give we more efficient in mass production case. So you can see we have more tools about, for example, quality function development or concurrent engineering. We have so many some kinds of tools to help us to coordinate supply side. And if that give us so efficient, then that kind of efficient will attract more and more developed community to accept our order. And so now, also because of that kind of imbalance, so now design thinking, you may find more and more talking about how to emphasize for customer. But if you using that kind of design thinking process, you may also, still feel more comfortable, more confidence to design for that kind of consumer, because I think that they are more there are more possibility that already used to that kind of order for less production. But when we go to underdeveloped community, there are so many different. For example, the first thing I was talking about that. For example, when we go to most of the underdeveloped community, and maybe they are just doing like lower level jobs, maybe farming or anything. For example, when you go to such community, most of them are living at a very far, very long distance. For why do they live like that? Because that kind of because of lack of transportation, that kind of living style will make them more difficult to buy something they need or to sell something they want to sell. Why do they live like that? Why? Why?
Again, repeat the question.
You don't understand. For example, I mean, there's very much that kind of situation when we go to underdeveloped community. We always find out that people live way off large area, right? That makes them hard because also because of that they may lack of transportation equipment. So they will cost them much to get what they need to buy something, right? Or cost much for them to sell something to others, right? But why do they live just like that? Why?
You mean why is
So spread.
spread?
Yeah.
But it's so spread.
Yeah.
Environment.
Huh?
Environment allow them to benefit for
What
their
kind
job.
of environment issues tell them to do that?
I mean, I think they have benefit with environment allow them that why they spare out. Maybe they have a different job to
Different job.
yeah.
But as I know, as we learned from Professor Yi, that she just told us because people live in that community have to, especially their parents have to get their job far away from home, so they don't have the chance to take care of their children. And so it may not be because of job, right? Or if they find out they may get some kind of job that way, but they did not they still not conscious about they should move together or easier to cooperate to get some jobs, right? They may not conscious about that, right? Okay, so if you try to improve their living standard, that must be a more important issue than others to try to persuade them to move together, right? Maybe when they live together, they may create other opportunity for serving each other. They will create some new business or new job opportunity for themselves, right? Okay. If we have enough time, we can go further to talking about that kind of problem. I always found out that in some, for example, in Buowee, I talking to people that they may not that kind of lack of resources. I found them they can they have their own chicken, or they can own their own I don't know, boat or ship, right? They can bring some vegetable. So if they try to feed themselves, it could be very easier than go far away to get a job. If they have that opportunity to reorganize their living style, things may become to more easier to improve it, right? But we think that again, when we design for mass market, I mean, what's the difference between when we design for mass market and design for underdeveloped community? I think it will be more comfortable for you when you design for mass market. You don't have to think about whole community. So you make that difference between, because even you design for community, developed community, but you talking about community, you will concern more and more social issues. But when you design for mass market, you will ignore all of those kinds of social issues, right? And you rely on what? Rely on the power of your enterprise, because if your enterprise or any other big organization already have that kind of power to induce community to accept their cooperative program, right? Okay, that is, I just mean that that is that kind of population of design thinking process, because people are more and more to ignore their community, so they just give you the chance to emphasize on that emphasize process such as that. Okay. So if you return to that simple idea, any civilization is come from the cooperation of society. So that is just a little different base for underdeveloped community and developed community. Developed community also has some kind of problem because they are manipulated by some big giant business, right? Giant enterprise. But in that kind of underdeveloped community, most of them is the problem of the lack of organization ability. So if we can understand those kind of tools, for example, such as concurrent engineering, customer experience design, or that quality function development tools that we just focusing more and more from supply side to corporate, and we extend it to more and more to demand side. Actually, the most simplest way to think about it is that any kind of service or product is more or less, or even itself is just a media or a tool to coordinate whole community, to cooperate, to create such kind of opportunity that we can repeat, we can using more efficient equipment to help us to improve our living standard. So I will give some kind of imagination. You may imagine that designer is very much like a social director, like film director. Now when you design, you just direct the future life of the society. It will be easier way to think about it, to design. Especially, we now know that most professional jobs becoming more and more replaced by efficient, automated equipment. So I assume that in the future of efficiency is replaced by automated equipment, then next stage that we will come to everyone's role should be more and more like a director. But it is fortunate that only now the designer is right in the center. Right in the center. You have better opportunity to understand that. If you not just restrict in your art thinking for design. Therefore, I was suggest to you the most comprehensive way to learn this. I may find out more and more tools. Okay, fragmented design tools or principles, maybe to start with community design. I think I mean community design, especially when we go to some underdeveloped or even developed community. we starting from cognitive design, it will give us a more proper opportunity to understand how to direct the society, right? It will be easier way to understand those fragmented design to work. What do you did you see? Did you ever see this?
Yes. Turning right.
Yeah. What is the meaning? What do you see? Huh?
Perspective.
Huh?
Perspective.
Depend on our perspective.
You determine what perspective?
We have a different perspective about the one picture.
You make an example.
Imagination. Perception.
Perception.
What you believe.
Yeah.
Huh?
This is what you believe.
What
Yeah.
do you believe?
Yeah.
No, it is a psychological test. It tests. What do you see? You think that she is turning clockwise or yeah?
Clockwise, anti-clockwise.
Yeah. What do you see?
Clockwise.
I see both. Yes.
Anyone see different? Reverse cut. Do anyone see reverse clockwise?
หนูต้องหันไปที่อื่น
Huh?
Quảมันอยู่ดีอยู่นะ
I was if you see clockwise turning, you raise your hand. Be honest. Be honest. Huh?
มีโบส
อันนี้ก็
โลโมเมนต์
If you see that reverse clockwise,
กริบเลย
raise your hand.
สมองเป็นอะไร
Did you if you see that both, raise your hand. You can see both. Yeah. Okay.
พยายามอะไร
Actually, if you focus on it, then you may learn you may learn that you can see it both. You can see it clockwise or reverse clockwise. Both. Because it depends on what part of brain you use. Can you understand? Depends on what part of your brain you use. When people look this from they are clockwise, you are using your right brain. You are using your right brain. If you look this
ใช่ปะ
to find out that reverse clockwise, you are using left brain. Okay. You can find out it later. You can find out the difference between right side of your brain and left side of your brain. It means usually that your left side of brain is helping you to analyze this, help you for logic thinking, help you for language. Okay, and your right side of your right side of the right part of your brain will helping you to notice whole picture. So if you look back to what we just told, you find out that we are now teaching at school, give you more and more such as concurrent engineering, quality function development, or customer journey like this. We're using very clear logic for you to learn about how to coordinate supply side and demand side, right? But actually, do you remember that? That I will give you. Yeah, you can go back to that kind of SIMC, MC difference. But I will give you the last one is that the word comes from, the sentence comes from Steve Jobs. He said, "Don't sell products, sell dreams." And explained it like this: Apple is different from all other brands because for Steve Jobs, consumers weren't just consumers. They were people with dreams, hopes, and ambitions. And he got Apple to create product to help them achieve their dreams and goals. But I think most people will recognize what he just want to mean different than he really want to try to express. Because can you imagine how can Steve Jobs create such as iPad? You forgot the first product. iPad.
你说第一名是 Sony，
Huh?
你的 Live Walkman， 你的 Live Walkman。
What?
Sony Walkman。He doesn't like it. He just dropped it.
He didn't like it.
Oh. It's too hard to use it. iPod comes because at that time it was a Walkman that didn't have to put the CD on. And you need to carry big stuff with everyone to listen to music. So we think it sucked. So he made that become that contain 1,000 music list on it.
It's just talking about that because we already have digital method to record music, and we still use it. We still use that Walkman to record what music we need, right?
Yeah.
But actually, the most important influence of iPads when he started their iPad design, they also create iTunes, right?
Yeah.
What is the meaning of iTunes?
Online music.
Streaming, huh?
Huh? What? Actually, iTunes is first version of iCloud idea, right? Can you understand that? I think it's the most earlier stage. It is much more earlier stage of iCloud ideas. Now we use cloud drive for anywhere, right? It means that when he think about iPad, he think about not just individual dreams, He also think about the new way of organizing whole society using cloud drive to coordinate people, right? I just give you some clue to think about that. So social design or community design, it just gives us opportunity to bring us to the starting point of that. How could we create new civilization for us? How do we to improve our living quality, no matter in lower, in development community or in developed community. If we know that cooperation is the core problem. Now, actually, I find you, part of you, especially if your advantages, your training give you more opportunity to train your right side of your brain. So use that to see things as a whole. And using your left side of brain to figure out more logical way to realize that what you dream about the society or what you dream about the community, and help people to create their dreams, to join, to cooperate with you, or to propose their own cooperative program to improve their life themselves. That is what I'm thinking about social design. Okay. Oh. You didn't tell me. I don't know. Too late for you.
No problem.
Any question? I think you are very underrated.
Any question you want to ask, Professor? Oh, you will return in June, right? You're coming back in June.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it will be like a workshop between professor, student, professor, and us. So if you are interested in having direct experience with the professor and the Chinese team, so stay tuned. And I will practicing the process and our thinking during this semester. So that is the short-term goal we are achieving for.
My
Moving forward.
point is that learning from community is the best way for you to how to design for next month.
Thank you.